August 16th, 2025, the Diamond Sutra. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was staying in Anapandika's park at Jeta Grove in Shavasti with a community of 1,250 bhikshus. And whenever in the old time, the world honored one put on his robe, took his alms bowl, and went into the great city of Shavasti, going from house to house to beg for food. This done, he returned to his abiding place, finished the meal, put away his robe and bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. Then the elder Subhuti, one of the most senior in the assembly, rose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, knelt on his right knee, with his palms joined, and respectfully addressed the Buddha. How remarkable, world honored one, that the Tathagata is ever mindful of Bodhisattvas, protecting, instructing well, world honored one. When good men and good women resolve to attain Anuttara Sambodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said, excellent, excellent, Subhuti. It is, as you said, the Tathagata is ever mindful of Bodhisattvas, protecting, instructing well. Now listen attentively, and I will explain it for you. Good men and good women who resolve to attain Anuttara Sambodhi should thus abide and subdue their minds. Yes, well done. We're listening with great anticipation. The Buddha said to Subhuti, the Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas should thus subdue their minds. All the different types of sentient beings, whether they're born from eggs removed by moisture transformation, whether they have form or no form, whether they have thought or no thoughts, or have neither thought nor non-thought. I will liberate them by leading them to nirvana without residue, with immeasurable and countless infinite sentient beings have been liberated. Ultimately, no sentient beings have been liberated. Why, Subhuti? If bodhisattvas have any notions of self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan, they're not bodhisattvas. Furthermore, Subhuti, in the practice of charity, bodhisattvas should abide in nothing whatsoever. That is, to practice charity without abiding in form, sounds, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. Subhuti, bodhisattvas should practice charity this way, abiding in nothing. Why? If bodhisattvas practice charity without attachment, their merits are immeasurable. Subhuti, what do you think? Is the space in the eastern direction measurable? No, world onwards. Subhuti, is any of the space in the southern, western, and northern directions and the four intermediate directions above or below measurable? No, world onward. Subhuti, the merits obtained by the bodhisattvas who practice charity without attachment are also measurable as such. Subhuti, bodhisattvas just thus abide by what is just taught. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of its physical appearance? No, world onward. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of its physical appearance. Why? The Tathagata teaches the physical appearances, not physical appearances. The Buddha said to Subhuti, all appearances are illusory. To see that appearances are not appearances is to see the Tathagata. Subhuti said, addressed the Buddha, world honored one, will there be any sentient beings who give rise to true faith upon hearing this teaching? The Buddha said to Subhuti, do not even say such a thing. After my passing in the last 500 years, there will be those observing the precepts and cultivating merits who have the faith that these words are true. You should know that these people are not merely cultivating virtuous fruits with 1, 2 Buddhas, 3, 4, or 5 Buddhas. They have cultivated all kinds of virtuous fruits with hundreds of thousands, even countless numbers of Buddhas. Upon hearing these passages, some will in an instant give rise to pure faith. So Buddha, the Tathagata knows and sees these beings perfectly as they obtain such countless merits. Why? It's because these beings are free from the notions of a self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan. They're also free from the notions of dharmas and non-dharmas. Why? If the minds of these sentient beings have attachments, they're clinging to the notions of self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan. If they have the attachment of dharmas, they're clinging to the notions of self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan. Why? If they have the attachment of non-dharmas, they're clinging to the notion of self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan. Therefore, one should not cling to dharmas or non-dharmas. For this reason, the Tathagata often teaches bhikshus, know that my dharma is like a rat. If even the dharma should be abandoned, how much more so the non-dharma? Subhuti, what do you think? Has the Tathagata attained Anuttara Sambodhi? Does he teach the dharma? Subhuti said, I understand the meaning of what the Buddha said. There's no fixed dharma called Anuttara Sambodhi, and there's also no fixed dharma that the Tathagata can teach. Why? The dharma taught by the Tathagata cannot be grasped or explained. It's neither dharma nor non-dharma. How is it so? It's because all the saints and sages are distinguished by the unconditioned dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? If a person who fell a trichilocosm with 7 jewels have given away in a charity, wouldn't the merits obtained by this person be great? Subhuti said, extremely great. Well done. Why? Even though the merit obtained is not the nature of merit, therefore, the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. But if a person studies and follows even a mere 4-line verse of the sutra and teaches it to others, this person's merits exceed the former's. Why? Subhuti, all the Buddhas in the realization of Anuttara Sambodhi originate from this sutra. Subhuti, that which is called the Buddha Dharma is not the Buddha Dharma, therefore it is called the Buddha Dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Strodapana have thought I've attained the realization of Strodapana? Subhuti said, no, Worldana one. Why? Strodapana means stream enter, but there's nothing to enter. Therefore, one who does not enter into sound small Form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and dharma is called Strodabhana. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Sakradagaman have the thought, I've attained the realization of Sakradagaman? Subhuti said, no, world honorable. Why? Sakradagaman means to go and come one more time, but there is in reality no going and no coming. Therefore, one is called the Sakradagaman. Subhuti, what do you think? Does an Anagaman have thought, I've attained the realization of the Anagaman? Subhuti said, no, world honorable. Why? Anagaman means non-returning, but there is in fact no such thing as non-returning. Therefore, one's called an Anagaman. Subhuti, what do you think? Does an Arhat have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Arhat? Subhuti said, no, world honorable. Why? There is in reality no such thing as an Arhat, world honorable. If an Arhat gives rise to the thought of attaining the Arhathood, this means they're attached to the notion of self, person, and being, or lifespan. World honorable, you have said, of all people, I am foremost in attaining the samadhi of non-contention, the foremost Arhat, being free from desires. World honorable, I do not have the thought I'm an Arhat who is free from desires. World honorable, if I'd given rise to the thought I've attained the Arhathood, you would not have said, Subhuti practices Aryana, abiding peacefully in non-contention. In reality, Subhuti abides in nothing at all. Therefore, Subhuti is called the one who abides peacefully in non-contention. The Buddha said to Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Dipankara Buddha, did he receive any dharma? No, world honorable. When the Tathagata studied under Dipankara Buddha, he did not receive any dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? Does a Bodhisattva adorn the world, making it a Buddha world? No, world honorable. To adorn, why? To adorn the world into a Buddha world is not to adorn, therefore it's called to adorn. So, Subhuti, Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas should give rise to a pure mind that does not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas. They should abide in nothing to give rise to the mind. Subhuti, if there were a person with a body the size of Mount Sumer, what do you think? Would this body be huge? Subhuti said, extremely huge. Well done. Why? The Buddha teaches not a body, therefore it's called a huge body. Subhuti, what do you think? If there was many Ganges rivers as grains of sand in the Ganges, wouldn't the amount of sand contained in all those Ganges rivers be great? Subhuti said, extremely great. Well done. Why? If even the Ganges rivers are innumerable, how much more so the grains of sand? Subhuti, let me not tell you the truth. A good man or good woman fills as many trikilocosms as are grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers with 7 jewels and gives them away in charity. Would these merits be great? Subhuti said, extremely great. Well done. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a good man or good woman is able to study and follow even a mere 4-line verse of the sutra and teach it to others, their merits are far greater than the former. Furthermore, Subhuti, wherever one teaches or recites even a mere 4-line verse of the sutra, that place should be venerated as a Buddha stupa by heavenly beings, human beings, and asuras in this world. How much more so is the case where one can completely read, recite, study, and follow the sutra? Subhuti, you should know such a person has achieved the highest, rarest of accomplishments wherever the sutra is present. The Buddha or his revered disciples are also present. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world honored one. What shall we call the sutra and how shall we uphold it? The Buddha said, Subhuti, this sutra is called Diamond Prajna Paramita. In accord with this title, you should uphold the sutra. How is it so? Subhuti, the Buddha teaches the Prajna Paramita is not Prajna Paramita, therefore it's called Prajna Paramita. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have any dharma to teach? Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honored, the Tathagata has nothing to teach. Subhuti, what do you think? Are all the tiny particles contained in this trikilocosm great in number? Subhuti said, extremely great. Well done. When Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches tiny particles are not tiny particles, therefore they're called tiny particles. The Tathagata teaches that worlds are not worlds, therefore they're called worlds. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of its 32 good marks? No, well done. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of its 32 good marks. Why? The Tathagata teaches that the 32 good marks are not good marks, therefore they're called the 32 good marks. Subhuti, if a good man or good woman gives away their body in life, as many times there are grains of sand in the Ganges in charity. If another studies and follows even a 4-line verse of the sutra and teaches it to others, latter's merits far exceed the former's. Upon hearing the sutra, Subhuti was moved to tears, having deeply understood its meaning and significance. He said to the Buddha, how remarkable, world honored, when you have taught us such a profound sutra, even though I have long attained wisdom, I have never heard such a teaching before, world honored. Someone who hears this sutra gives rise to pure faith and thus perceives the true nature of reality. We should know that this person's achieved the most extraordinary merit, world honored. The true nature of reality is not the true nature of reality, therefore it is what the Tathagata calls the true nature of reality. World honored, having just heard the sutra, I have no difficulty in believing, comprehending, studying, and following it. But in the ages to come, in the last 500 years, if there are sentient beings who hear the sutra and believe, comprehend, study, and follow it, they will be the foremost remarkable beings. Why? These beings do not have any notions of self, person, sending, being, or lifespan. How is it so? A self is not a self. The appearances of the person, sending, being, lifespan are likewise not their appearances. Why? Those who relinquish all appearances and notions are called Buddha. The Buddha said to Subhuti, so it is. You should know. If someone hears the sutras and neither shocked, frightened, or disturbed, this person's extremely remarkable. Why? Why? Subhuti, the Tathagata says the foremost pyramid is not the foremost pyramid, therefore it's called the foremost pyramid. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches tolerance pyramid is not tolerance pyramid, therefore it's called tolerance pyramid. Why? Subhuti, in a former lifetime, my body was mutilated by King Kalinga. Lifetime, I had no notions of self, a person, sending me, or lifespan. Why? If I had any notions of a self, a person, sending me, or lifespan, as my body was being dismembered limb after limb, I would have given rise to feelings of resentment and hatred. Subhuti, I also recall for 500 lifetimes I was a rishi of tolerance. At that time, I was also free from the notions of self, a person, sending, being, or lifespan. Therefore, Subhuti, Bodhisattvas should relinquish all appearances and notions in their resolve to attain unutterance and Bodhi. They should not abide in form, sounds, mount, such dharmas to give rise to mind. They should give rise to a mind without abiding in anything. Any abidance in the mind is attachment. Therefore, the Buddha says, so Bodhisattvas should practice charity with the mind not abiding in any form. Subhuti, to benefit all sentient beings, the Bodhisattva should practice charity in this way. The Tathagata teaches that all appearances and notions are not appearances and notions, and that all sentient beings are not sentient beings. Subhuti, what the Tathagata speaks is true, real, and as it is. His words are neither deceptive nor contradictory. Subhuti, the truth that Tathagata has attained is neither real nor unreal. Subhuti, if a Bodhisattva practice charity with the mind abiding in something, they're like people entering darkness and thus not seeing anything. If a Bodhisattva practice charity without abiding in anything, they're like people with eyes wide open, seeing all things clearly under the bright sunlight. Subhuti, if in a future time they're good men or good women who are able to read, recite, study, follow the sutra, the Tathagata with his Buddha wisdom will clearly perceive and recognize each one of them as they all achieve immeasurable and infinite merit. Subhuti, if a good man or good woman offers her body in charity as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges in the morning, and then does likewise at noon and in the evening, continuing with us for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas, and if someone else hears this sutra and gives rise to unwavering faith, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. How much more so the merits of those who transcribe, read, recite, study, follow, and explain to others the sutra. In short, Subhuti, this sutra carries inconceivable, immeasurable, limitless merit, and the Tathagata teaches to benefit aspirants of the great vehicle as well as aspirants of the supreme vehicle. The Tathagata knows and sees those who are able to read, recite, study, follow, and widely teach to others the sutra as they achieve innumerable, immeasurable, limitless, and inconceivable merit. They indeed carry on the work of the Tathagata, bringing beings to unutterance and Bodhi. Why? Subhuti, those who are content with inferior teachings have the notions of a self, a person, sending, being, or lifespan. Such people are not able to hear, read, recite, study, and explain to others the sutra. Subhuti, wherever the sutra is present, all heavenly beings, human beings, and sirs in all the world should come and make offerings. Wherever the sutra is present, that place is a stupa. All should respectfully circumambulate it, scattering fragrant flowers all around it. Furthermore, Subhuti, suppose there are good men or good women who read, recite, study, follow the sutra, but are belittled by others. This is because their previous bad karma, which would have otherwise caused them to be reborn in the wretched destinies, but now by enduring the disparagement of others, this previous bad karma is eradicated, and they will eventually attain unutterance and Bodhi. Subhuti, I remember the countless kalpas ago, before the time of Diamond Buddha, I encountered 84 millions, billions of Nayutas of Buddhas and made offerings to and served all of them without fail. However, if someone in the Dharma ending age can read, recite, study, and follow the sutra, this person's merits will be 100 times, even 100 trillion times greater than mine when I made offerings to all these Buddhas. In fact, no such comparison either by calculation or analogy is possible. Subhuti, I fully revealed the merits obtained by good men and good women who read, recite, study, and follow the sutra during the Dharma ending age. Some people, upon hearing it, might become hysterical and skeptical and dismiss it. Subhuti, you should know the underlying meaning of the sutra is inconceivable, and the rewards are also inconceivable. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha world onward. If good men and good women resolve to attain unutterance and Bodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said to Subhuti, good men and good women who resolve to attain unutterance and Bodhi should bear this in mind. I will liberate all sentient beings by bringing them to nirvana. Yet when all sentient beings have been liberated, not a single sentient being has actually attained nirvana. Why? Subhuti, if bodhisattvas have notions of self, a person, sending, being, or lifespan, they're not bodhisattvas. How is it so? Subhuti, there's actually no resolve for the attainment of unutterance and Bodhi. Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Diamond Buddha, did he obtain anything in order to attain unutterance and Bodhi? No, world onwards. I understand the meaning of your teaching. When you studied under Diamond Buddha, there was nothing obtained for your attainment of unutterance and Bodhi. The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. There's indeed nothing that Tathagata obtained to attain unutterance and Bodhi. Subhuti, if there was something obtained to attain unutterance and Bodhi, Diamond Buddha would not have foretold you will obtain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. It is precisely because there's actually nothing obtained to attain unutterance and Bodhi that Diamond Buddha foretold you will obtain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. Why? This is because Tathagata means all dharmas as they really are. If someone says that Tathagata attained unutterance and Bodhi, Subhuti, there's in fact nothing obtained in the Buddhist Buddha's attainment of Anuttara Sambodhi. Subhuti, the Anuttara Sambodhi attained by the Tathagata is neither real nor unreal. Therefore, the Tathagata teaches that all dharmas are the Buddha dharmas. Subhuti, the so-called all dharmas are not dharmas at all. Therefore, they're called all dharmas. Subhuti, consider the example of a person with an immense perfect body. Subhuti said, world honor, with the person with the immense perfect body has no such body, therefore it's called an immense perfect body. Subhuti, so it is with the Bodhisattva. Someone says, I'll bring countless sentient beings to Nirvana. They're not Bodhisattvas. Why, Subhuti? There's actually no such thing called a Bodhisattva. Therefore, the Buddha says, all dharmas are free from the notions of self-person, sentient being, or lifespan. Subhuti, if a Bodhisattva says, I will adorn the world, making it a Buddha world, they're not Bodhisattvas. Why? The Tathagata teaches that to adorn the world into a Buddha world is not to adorn, therefore it is called to adorn. Subhuti, if Bodhisattva realizes the Dharma of non-self, the Tathagata says, this is really a Bodhisattva. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the physical eye? Yes, well done. The Tathagata has the physical eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Deva eye? Yes, well done. The Tathagata has the Deva eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the wisdom eye? Yes, well done. The Tathagata has the wisdom eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Dharma eye? Yes, well done. The Tathagata has the Dharma eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Buddha eye? Yes, well done. The Tathagata has the Buddha eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Buddha regard all the sand in the Ganges as sand? Yes, well done. The Tathagata calls it sand. Subhuti, what do you think? If there were as many Ganges rivers as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and there were a Buddha world for each grain of sand of all those rivers, would the number of those Buddha worlds be great? Great indeed, well done. When the Buddha said to Subhuti, with respect to each and every sentient being dwelling in all these Buddha worlds, the Tathagata is perfectly aware of their minds. Why? The Tathagata teaches that these minds are not minds, therefore they're called minds. How is it so? The mind of the past is ungraspable, the mind of the present is ungraspable, the mind of the future is ungraspable. Subhuti, what do you think? If a person were to fill a trichilocosm with the 7 jewels and give them away in charity, with such a deed, would the merits obtained by this person be great? Yes, well done. Well, this person would obtain extremely great merits from such a deed. Subhuti, if these merits were real, the Tathagata would not say the merits obtained are great. It's only because the merits are not substantial that the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Buddha be recognized by means of perfect physical body? No, world honor. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of a perfect physical body. Why? The Tathagata teaches that a perfect physical body is not a perfect physical body, therefore it is called a perfect physical body. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of perfect attributes? No, world honor. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of perfect attributes. Why? The Tathagata teaches that perfect attributes are actually not perfect attributes, therefore they're called perfect attributes. Subhuti, do not think that the Tathagata has the thought, I have something to teach. Do not think this way. Why? Whoever says that the Tathagata teaches the Dharma slanders the Buddha, because they do not understand my teaching. Subhuti, to teach the Dharma is that there's no Dharma to teach, therefore it's called the teaching of the Dharma. Then the wise venerable Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honor one, will there be sentient beings who, in the future, who will generate faith upon hearing these teachings? The Buddha said, Subhuti, they are neither sentient beings nor non-sentient beings. Why? Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches sentient beings who go through many births are not sentient beings, therefore they're called sentient beings. Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honor one, when the Buddha attained Anuttara Sambodhi, was nothing actually attained. The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. As to Anuttara Sambodhi, I've not attained the slightest thing. That's why it's called Anuttara Sambodhi. Furthermore, Subhuti, all dharmas are equal, none is superior or inferior. This is called Anuttara Sambodhi. By cultivating all good without the notions of self, a person, sending me, or lifespan, one attains Anuttara Sambodhi. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that good is not good, therefore it is good. Subhuti, if a person accumulates mounds of the 7 jewels equivalent in size to all Mount Sumers in the worlds of trichilocosm and gives away in charity, and if another person's reads, recites, studies, follows, and teaches this Prajnaparamita Sutra, even a mere 4-line verse to others, the latter's merits will be less than 100th, even a billionth of the latter's. In fact, the latter's merits are so great that no comparison by calculation or analogy is possible. Subhuti, what do you think? You should not claim that the Tathagata has thought of liberates sentient beings. Subhuti, do not think this way. Why? There are in fact no sentient beings that the Tathagata liberates. If there were sentient beings liberated by the Tathagata, it would mean that the Tathagata has notions of self, person, sentient being, or lifespan. So, Subhuti, do not think this way. Subhuti, when the Tathagata says I, there's actually no I. So, however, ordinary beings think that there is a real I. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that ordinary beings are not ordinary beings, therefore they're called ordinary beings. Subhuti, what do you think? Can one recognize the Tathagata by means of 32 good marks? Subhuti said, yes, one can recognize the Tathagata by means of 32 good marks. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if one recognizes that Tathagata by means of 32 good marks, that means a wheel-turning sage king would be a Tathagata. Somebody said the Buddha world onward. That's I understand the meaning of what you said. One should not recognize the Tathagata by means of 32 good marks. Then the world onward spoke this verse: those who see me in form or seek me through sound are on a mistaken path. They do not see the Tathagata. Somebody, if you think that the Tathagata attains unyutara samak, somebody without the perfection of all attributes, somebody do not think this way, that the Tathagata attains unyutara samak, somebody without the perfection of all attributes. Somebody, if you think this way, those who resolve to attain unyutara samak, somebody who assert the annihilation of the dharmas. So do not think this way. Why? Those who resolve to attain unyutara samak, somebody do not assert the annihilation of all the dharmas. Somebody, if a bodhisattva were to fill the worlds as many as grains of sand in the Ganges with 7 jewels and given away in charity, and another bodhisattva were to attain the forbearance of the selfless nature of all dharmas, the merits of this bodhisattva would exceed the former's. Why? Subhuti, this is because the bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits. Subhuti said to the Buddha world onward, why is it that bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits? Subhuti, bodhisattvas do not cling to the merits they generate, therefore I say they do not accumulate merits. Subhuti, whoever says the Tathagata comes, goes, sits, or lies down does not understand the meaning of my teaching. Why? That does come one, that neither comes nor goes, therefore they're called the Tathagata. Subhuti, what do you think? If a good man or good woman were able to take all the worlds of trichilocosm and crush them into tiny particles, wouldn't these particles be numerous? So what he said, extremely numerous. Well, I don't know why. If these tiny particles had real existence, the Buddha would not call them tiny particles. How is it so? The Buddha teaches tiny particles are not tiny particles, therefore they're called tiny particles. Well, I don't know. That which the Tathagata calls all the worlds of trichilocosm, actually not worlds, therefore they're called worlds. Why? To the extent if these worlds really exist, they exist as one wholeness. The Tathagata teaches that one wholeness is not one wholeness, therefore it's called one wholeness. So, Buddha, that one wholeness is actually ineffable, but ordinary beings do cling to such a notion. So, Buddha, say someone claims that the Buddha teaches the views of itself, a person sending being in a lifespan. What do you think, Subhuti? Has this person understood the meaning of my teaching? No, world onward. This person has not understood the meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Why? World onward teaches that the views of self, a person sending being in a lifespan, are not the views of self, a person sending being in a lifespan. Therefore, they're called the views of self, a person sending being in a lifespan. Subhuti, those who resolve to attain unyutara samak, somebody should know, believe, perceive, and understand all dharmas just there without attaching any dharma attributes. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that all dharma attributes are not dharma attributes, therefore they're called dharma attributes. Subhuti, if a person would fill the countless worlds with 7 jewels and give away in charity, and if a good man or good woman, having made the bodhisattva resolve, reads, recites, states, follows, and expounds to others this sutra, even a mere 4-line verse, the latter's merits far exceed the former's, how should one expound to others without attachment, abiding in stillness and suchness? Why? All conditioned dharmas are like a dream, a bubble, a shadow, an illusion, like dew or flash of lightning. Thus shall we perceive them. With this, the Buddha concluded the sutra. The other elders of Buddha, other bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, heavenly and human beings, asuras, and other beings of this world, having heard the Buddha, were all filled with immense joy. They accepted and followed the teaching faithfully, ended the Diamond Prajnaparamita Sutra. Lipa di che di twalani di nihila di pilini di mahacha di zingli chandi sapoha lipa di che di twalani di nihila di pilini di mahacha di zingli chandi sapoha lipa di che di twalani di nihila di pilini di mahacha di zingli chandi sapoha. Extinguish doubts and generate faith, relinquish form and transcend principle, instantly renounce attachment all beings, dharmas to understand true emptiness, flavor, prajna, sublime, thoroughly understand the 4-line verse, its merits inexpressible. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. May all beings of the 4 births and in the 9 realms ascend to the wondrous world of lotus treasury, and those in the 8 woeful states and 3 wretched days flow into the sea of fire China. I take refuge in the Buddha. May each and every sentient being understand the great way profoundly and bring forth Bodhi mind. I take refuge in the Dharma. May each and every sentient being deeply enter the Sutra treasure and have wisdom vast and see. I take refuge in the Sangha. May each and every sentient being form together great assembly, one and all in harmony. What a wonderful blessing to recite this sutra. Let us dedicate the superb and limitless merits. May all floundering, struggling sentient beings soon reach the Buddha land of infinite light. Buddhas of the past, present, and future, in the 10 directions. All Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, and Mahaprajnaparamita. May I remove the 3 obstructions of all afflictions. May I have the wisdom to perceive the truth. May all beings be free of transgression and suffering. I've had to practice the Bodhisattva way, life after life.